Hello, welcome to Say It With Food. On today's episode, we're making German pretzel sandwiches. And our interpersonal concept is the dark side of communication. It's my favorite side. Why spend time in the light when you can go to the dark, twisted, wicked, cynical part of the communication world? With the dark side of communication, we're particularly focusing on hurtful messages. But first, you might be wondering, dark side of communication, German pretzel sandwiches? How are those two related? Well, in the dark, cynical, twisted mind of Marianne Dainton, we're starting off with a pretzel twisting, get it? And that's what's going to be the twist on this particular dish.
Hi, I'm Marianne Dainton, and I'm a professor of communication at LaSalle University. One of the things I teach my students is that there are lots of different ways to send messages. One of my favorite ways is to say it with food. In this show, I will combine two of my passions, interpersonal communication and cooking. So join me as I teach you how to send a message in the tastiest way possible, through food.
In order to make German pretzel sandwiches, we're going to start off making a pork schnitzel. And that requires taking some boneless pork chops. We're going to pound them thin, and we're going to go through a breading process and fry them. And then we're going to serve them on some grilled pretzels. And then add a little bit of your favorite mustard, some lettuce and tomato, and you've got yourself a wonderful treat. So to start, in order to do this, we need
pretzels, boneless pork chops, flour, eggs, and breadcrumbs, and then garnishes for your sandwich.
Okay, so we're going to start off by breading our pork chops. So let me get some things out of the way here. And I also want to add some salt and some pepper into the flour to get some seasoning on it. Shake it up a little bit. Okay, these pork chops are really lean, but you can see that it has a little bit of fat on there. And that fat will curl up while you're frying it. So it always helps to just put a couple of little slits in there. And that will allow the pork to stay flat while you're cooking it. We have to pound this thin. And I know a lot of people have fancy meat pounders. I don't. What I have is some plastic wrap and a pan. So I have one layer of plastic wrap on the counter already. And now I'm just going to put another piece of plastic wrap right on top. This protects the meat, but also protects the pan. And then whack away. There we go. Quick and easy. So now that we've gotten those out of the way, we can start breading them. The breading process is pretty simple. You start with flour because you need to give the breadcrumbs something to stick onto. So you use flour and then the egg and then the breadcrumbs, and it will all hopefully hold together and create a lovely light breading. Now when you do this, if you use both hands once you get into the egg, what you end up with is breaded fingers. So try to use one hand in the dry ingredients and one hand in the wet ingredients. And that will help you to prevent from getting a little bit too gooky. Next, this one's dry. And this one's wet. Looks like I made just the perfect amount. Once everything is breaded, I need to rinse my hands, although I didn't do too badly, and then heat up the skillet that we're going to cook it in. We need to heat it up with some oil because we need to get that oil hot enough to create a quick fry. It's when your oil's not hot enough that things get greasy, so it has to be plenty hot in order to sear everything in. While we're doing that, let's move on to the first issue related to hurtful messages.
When people find out that I study marriage, they automatically assume I'm happily married. Now, of course, I am happily married, but it has nothing to do with studying marriage. The reality is that even though I know better, I'm still human. And those temptations to behave badly, they still happen. There are lots of times when the logical side of me says, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it, and then the emotional side goes blurt, and it comes out anyhow. The only real advantage I have in studying marriage is that I usually know what I've done is wrong and why it was wrong, and I'm not afraid to admit it.
Okay, the oil's been heating for a while, and now I'm going to show you a quick trick to see if it's hot enough. I'm going to take some of these breadcrumbs and just stick it into the oil. If it sizzles, it's ready to go. Looks like it's sizzling just perfectly. So now I can put my chicken in. We've got a big sauté pan because these pieces of pork are pretty big as well. And you've got to be careful not to crowd the pan too much. Alright, so these are looking golden brown and delicious. So I'm just going to take them out and drain them on a paper towel. Now, one of the secrets to fried food is to salt it immediately. It's the only time the salt will actually stick in. Okay, we're going to cut these with a serrated knife, not a regular knife. It's really important that you have this serrated edge. If you try to use a regular blade, it's just going to gum up. You're not going to be able to cut through the density of the pretzel. Now be careful with this. It's easier to do it lengthwise. You just go right down through the middle. Switch sides a little bit. And there we go. Just got to keep going through. We've got 4 schnitzels. So we're going to do 4 pretzels. Okay, so we're going to just take these and walk over to my grill pan. It's hot, so I've got to use a hot pan. See the smoke? We're just going to put them down. Put the lid on it, and it'll just take a matter of seconds before we get a nice char on. While those are grilling, I'm going to clean up my cutting board just a little bit and slice a tomato. The good news is you use the same type of knife to slice a tomato as you do for the bread. Tomato skin is kind of tough, and you need those serrated knives to be able to get right through it. Okay, it's time for us to start trying to put together these sandwiches. Not that the pretzels were firmly agreeing with us, but what we're going to do is cut them in half anyhow. So it should work out. And you can top them any way you like. What I'm going to do here is cut down the schnitzel to the size of the pretzel. And this one, we're just going to put a little lettuce on. Then we're going to do one. I think this one, a little traditional yellow mustard, kind most Americans are accustomed to. Put some schnitzel, little tomato, and a little bit of lettuce. So that's our episode today. A little bit twisted, just the way I like things. See you next time on Say It With Food.
And then everyone on these episodes would come out in the same clothes.